Get ready, Friar Faithful. This is the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Jackson swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. He has done it again. Unbelievable.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the St. Louis Cardinals in the third game of a four-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Cardinals, left-hander Matthew Liberatore, and for the Padres, right-hander Randy Vasquez. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you from inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 4:15 as the Padres continue this 10-game road trip. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we have a lot to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll hear from Padres infielder Jay Cronenworth. We check in with Padres radio voice Jesse Agler in just a little bit. Our keys to the game, a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup, and much, much more. But first, it's time to set the table. Brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with three locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres entered today 55-49. They enter the day sitting in the National League's final wild card spot. A one-game lead on the Giants. The Padres have lost 4 in a row. They're now 3-5 on this 10-game trip to Washington, D.C., Miami, and St. Louis. Meanwhile, the Cardinals come in 54-51. They're now a game and a half back of the Padres for that final wild card spot. The Cardinals had been just 5-13 in their prior 18 games entering this series, but their momentum has changed. Let's rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's begin in the top of the second. A scoreless game. Nick Pivetta on the mound. Pivetta hit Wilson Contreras with a pitch. Nolan Arenado reached on a ground ball behind the second base bag. Jay Cronenworth couldn't field it cleanly. Everybody was safe. It was an error on Cronenworth. A sacrifice bunt put the runners at second and third. Joel Pozo was next with the infield drawn in.
James Pozo hits it sharply on the ground to short. Bogarts from his knees had a shot to come home, but couldn't get the ball out of his glove, so he throws to first again. Pozo, Contreras comes in to score, and the Cardinals lead it 1-0.
That's all the Cardinals scored in the second, an unearned run against Pivetta. The Padres put runners on second and third with one out in the top of the third. They did not score. Against Cardinals starter Miles Michaelis, they put runners on first and second with nobody out. In the top of the fourth inning, they didn't score again. Bottom four, Pivetta issued a pair of one-out walks. The runners moved up to second and third base on a wild pitch. It was Mason Wynn at the plate.
This one lined into left center field. He has found the gap. That will get both runs home. Contreras has already scored. Arenado jogging in behind him. A 2-run double for Mason Wynn. And now a 3-0 Cardinal lead.
Padres continued to have scoring opportunities, down by 3. Fernando Tatis Jr. hit a 2-out double in the 5th inning. Padres couldn't get him in. They put runners on first and second in the 6th with one out, but Gavin Sheets grounded into an inning-ending double play. Michaelis went 5 scoreless innings for St. Louis. Pivetta went 6 1/3. He allowed 3 runs. The Padres then put a runner in scoring position in the 7th inning against the Cardinals bullpen. They did not score. They got the leadoff man on in the 8th inning. They did not score again. They got a runner in scoring position in the 9th inning, and the Padres did not score. The Padres had 11 hits total. They went 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. It was the first time since 1998 the Padres had double digit hits and not scored a run. 5th time that's ever been done in franchise history. And the final score yesterday in game 2 of this 4-game series, the Cardinals 3 and the Padres nothing. Padres unfortunately losing a 4th consecutive game. If you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can find me on X at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DMs open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can chime in on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube stream. Let me know who you are, where you're tuned in from, and if you have a key to today's game, you can also share that with us, and we may just read it on the air live a little bit later on. Let's go to St. Louis.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Jesse, it's been certainly a weird couple of days for the Padres offense. On one hand, they have 24 hits. On the other hand, they have lost 2 straight games in St. Louis. How do you, I suppose, balance what the Padres have done offensively versus the final result in the run column yesterday and in the win-loss column the last couple of days?
Really weird, right? I mean, the first game is easy to sort of break down. You score 7 runs, you have 13 hits, and you lose. All right, you didn't get the pitching that you needed to get. That's as simple as it gets. It's weird, certainly, to score that many runs, have that many hits, and not win the game, but it's from a dissecting it standpoint, fairly straightforward. Yesterday, go figure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty remarkable that those two things happened in back-to-back games. 11 hits and no runs. Talked about it last night. Padres haven't pulled that off since 1998. How about it's the first time the Cardinals have shut out a team with that many hits since 1943? I mean, that's the craziness of what we're talking about with last night. And I don't know. I mean, do you call it, dumb luck with the situational hitting sort of going the way it was? Gavin Sheets hit a really hard comebacker in the 6th inning with a couple of guys on base, and Steven Matz just snagged it out of thin air and started a double play to end the inning. And it just kind of seemed like things like that were happening. And then you add in the fact that the Padres did not play a clean game last night. Xander's base running mistake was pretty big in the middle innings. Even Elias Diaz not tracking down that wild pitch, probably in the best way that he could have, wasn't great. So it was ugly. And maybe that's the way you explain away getting shut out on 11 hits is just making mistakes. But it's been weird, there's no doubt. To zoom out and answer your question, I guess, as to how it makes me feel about the state of the offense. I mean, I guess there's progress, right, in the last 2 nights because we're seeing some more hits. And really this entire trip, I think, we've seen a better version of the offense. But it's so funny and it's so baseball right now. These last 2 games, just remarkably quirky.
And I'll get into it a little bit later. You look at some of the numbers individually for some of these guys. Fernando, Rise, Manny. Some of the numbers are really, really good as of late. You would never think they're only 3-5 on this road trip. So we'll get into that a little bit later. We'll see if the Padres can collectively, one way or another, turn things around here today. On the mound for the Padres, Randy Vasquez. And his last start in Miami, Jesse, it was kind of that classic Randy Vasquez outing where he dealt with a lot of trouble. He gave up 7 hits. He went 4 innings in a third, and the Padres won the game. Can you remember another starter quite like Randy that just seems to find a way out of so many situations and at the end of the day does give your team a pretty darn good chance to win?
Yeah, it's a good question. Not one off the top of my head, just, real quick here, but, I think the way it's set up right now tonight for the Padres, it could look an awful lot like it did on Monday. If they can get a lead and Randy Vasquez can give them 4 or 5, I think you could see Mike Shildt come out with that real quick hook again and, lean on Morejon, Estrada, Adam, and Suarez the way that he did on Monday in that 2-1 win over the Marlins. I think, in a best-case scenario, the Padre offense goes crazy tonight. Randy's able to, sort of have a normal, straightforward start. But situationally, they need a win, right? And I think it sets up where you could have a very, very similar-looking outing and bullpen usage as you did on Monday in his last start. But you're right. I mean, it's not a standard thing to see a guy put that many people on base and generally get away with it. It's not a recipe for success. I know, the walks have perhaps gotten a little bit better as the season's gone on. There have been pockets, but, Tony and I talked about it after that game the other night. We've been using the traffic cop analogy with Randy Vasquez all season since Mike Shildt dropped that on us in spring training. But then Mike went for dodgeball and Frogger talking about what Randy did in his last start. And Tony was really on it. He said, maybe that's a little bit more appropriate because traffic cop sort of implies that, you're in complete control of the situation, right? You've got the whistle, you got the gloves, you got the flashlight, whatever it is. That's not necessarily what it's been for Randy Vasquez. I mean, he is out there playing dodgeball. He's a very good dodgeball player. But again, that is a dangerous, way to live as a starting pitcher.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. I have it written down for later, talking about the state of the bullpen today and how this game could play out. We'll see how Randy does. We'll see how the Padres do against left-hander Matthew Liberatore on the mound for St. Louis today. Jesse, thanks so much. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 4:05 here in San Diego. Thanks.
You got it, Sam.
All right, Jesse Agler joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game. Lot to do between now and first pitch. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also hear from Jake Cronenworth coming up a little bit later as well. Our keys to the game, a full look at headlines and the out-of-town scoreboard from around the major leagues. A lot to do on what is a gorgeous Saturday here in San Diego. Hope you're enjoying it, and we very much appreciate you spending part of your Saturday with us as we get ready for Padres baseball in St. Louis. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues after this on the Padres Radio Network.
Stay
Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for today's game. First pitch coming up at 4:15 in St. Louis. Game 3 of this 4-game series between the Padres and the Cardinals. Padres trying to turn this road trip around. They've lost 4 in a row. They are 3-5 on this trip, and in order to make it a 500 trip, they're going to have to win the next couple of days. But hey, first things first, got to take care of business today. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. Left-hander Matthew Liberatore on the mound for St. Louis. Taking a look at the Padres lineup today, it looks like this. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field leading off. Luis Ariz at DH batting second. Manny Machado at third base batting third. Jackson Merrill in the cleanup spot. In center field, Xander Bogaerts at shortstop batting 5th, Jake Cronenworth at first base in the 6th spot, Jose Iglesias at second base batting 7th, Bryce Johnson in left field batting 8th, and Martin Maldonado doing the catching and batting 9th, with Randy Vasquez on the mound, Gavin Sheets getting the day off today for the Padres. With all that in mind, let's go to St. Louis at Busch Stadium and hear from Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Started with Fernando. It's kind of maybe gone under the radar a little bit what he's done over the last 16 games. 333, a bunch of extra base hits. It seems like Fernando really come on strong lately.
Yeah, he's done a nice job, and yes, somehow it is under the radar, but not for us. You know, he's taking good at bats, driving the ball at all parts of the field. He's just in a good place, you know, and I'm seeing really enjoyment with him, and I'm just happy for him.
As far as Randy Vasquez goes, he's been, when you're winning as pitchers, the team just wins when he's out there. How important has that been?
Huge. I mean, you know, it's what the bottom line of this game is, you know, and so starters give us a chance, and Randy's done exactly that. Give us a chance and been able to get some leads, and the bullpen able to do their part. So, you know, he's done a nice job for us, Randy. Yes.
It seems like one of the things he's done really well lately. Also, actually, all season long is being able to manage traffic.
Right.
Can you talk about how he's done with that?
Yeah, you know, we always want to make sure we don't, you know, give in and don't beat ourselves. And, you know, he does pitch with some traffic. He's a contact guy, so there's going to be some people out there, but he's also got the ability to not make situations bigger than they are, make a good quality pitch, and him and Maldy work really well together.
Yeah, for Gavin, just not series against the lefty.
Yeah, you know, more the lefty factor, combination of, you know, Gavin's played a lot, you know, and these guys are posting and going, and just a chance to get him off his feet till he start the game, and you know he'll be the bullet for us, you know, at some point if we need it later. But yeah, just a day off with the lefty, day game tomorrow.
Is that because you've seen Randy grow his execution, but also understanding the type of pitch he is?
Right.
What's the greatest thing that impresses you from last year to this year, or even this year?
Yeah, it's a good question, Ace. You know, I think the thing that's impressed me the most is how conscientious he's been about taking advantage of his experiences, and he's been very good about being receptive and open to the clubhouse and the good leadership we have with the other starters, including, you know, Darvish and Joe. And he's just he's absorbing information. He's seeing the game. His in between start preparations continues to improve. So just all the intangibles that lead to a consistent, complete pitcher, you know, he's undertook and is thriving on.
Gavin's right in the lineup every day, but having his dad on the bench, like, how's it weapon? Is that visible for you?
Yeah, I mean, it can change the game, you know, and, you know, I would like to go ahead and get a 3, 5, 8-run lead and not have to worry about some of that. But when you have a proven guy over there that, you know, has been an everyday guy that can come in and take a quality at bat in a big situation, you know, off the bench, that's gives you one more opportunity to beat the other team.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game coverage coming up later on this evening. Sam Levitt back with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for today's game. First pitch coming up at 4:15 in St. Louis. The Cardinals come in 54-51. Padres at 55-49 on the season. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres today. Left-hander Matthew Liberatore, we have not talked much about him yet. He's on the mound for the Cardinals, making his first start in 15 days. We'll tell you why that is a little bit later on in our pregame coverage. Right here, right now, let's take you around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Well, the Yankees are not playing well right now. They're throwing the ball all over the place. They lost again to the Phillies earlier today. They've now lost 2 games to begin that series at home in New York. And they got some, I would say, very, very bad news earlier. Yankees captain Aaron Judge will go on the injured list with a flexor strain in his right elbow. A scan showed no damage to the ulnar collateral ligament, otherwise known as the UCL, of the 2-time AL MVP. Yankees manager Aaron Boone said Judge will have 10 days to 2 weeks of no throwing and will be the designated hitter at first when he returns. Giancarlo Stanton, the team's primary DH, will start to work in the outfield. And look, Stanton doesn't move super well. I mean, he really never plays the field anymore. And now you're saying Judge is going to have to be the DH and Stanton's going to have to be out there, I guess. If Judge has the DH, I mean, Judge has got to be in the lineup, right? So a couple of aspects of this that are not good for the Yankees, and Judge is going on the IL again with what is called a flexor strain in his right elbow. The Giants rotation took another hit when right-hander Landon Roop landed on the 15-day IL with elbow inflammation. Giants are now down to 3 regular starters, Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, and Justin Verlander. Roop was having a good season, 7-6 with a 3.11 ERA through 20 starts. Nick Kurtz of the Athletics became the first rookie in Major League Baseball history to hit 4 home runs in a game, part of a spectacular Friday night for the 22-year-old that is going to go down as one of the great offensive performances in baseball history. He matched the Major League record with 19 stolen bases in a 15-3 win for the A's against the Astros in Houston last night. He went 6 for 6 with 4 home runs. Now, the 4th home run did come against a position player pitching, but however, 4 home runs, 6 for 6, tied a Major League record with 19 total bases. He is 22, and he's already looking like an absolute star. So what a game for Nick Kurtz yesterday in Houston for the A's. Philly slugger Kyle Schwarber topped Mark McGwire yesterday for the most home runs among a player's first 1,000 hits. He now has 319 home runs in his career. A 12-5 win for the Phillies yesterday against the Yankees. Like I said, Phillies won again earlier today. We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up a little bit later, but that's a look at some headlines from around the major leagues. When we come back, we'll hear from Jay Cronenworth, also our keys to today's game. Full breakdown of our starting pitching matchup coming up in just a little bit as well. First pitch at 4:15 in St. Louis. It's game 3 of a 4-game series between the Padres and the Cardinals. Our pregame coverage continues after this.
Hey, gang, it's Woodsy.
Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we continue to preview today's Game 3 of this 4-game series between the Padres and the Cardinals. Padres trying to snap a 4-game skid. We'll hear from Jay Cronenworth in just a moment. We'll also have our keys to the game, take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, all coming up in this segment. But first, let's take a look at our injury report.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, nothing really pressing or new to report on the injury report, which is usually a good thing. As far as the Cardinals, they're still without Nolan Gorman, who has been dealing with a back injury. Sounds like he could begin a rehab assignment next week. Lars Nootbaar, also, who's been out with a rib cage injury, could also begin a rehab assignment next week. But those are two regulars for the Cardinals that are out for this series, Lars Nootbaar and Nolan Gorman. As far as the Padres, nothing to update you on as far as today's lineup or on the pitching staff. However, we did find out earlier this week that Michael King will throw his first simulated game on Monday at Petco Park, representing a pretty key step forward for Michael King. I would still expect it's going to be a little bit. He's going to have to throw, and then probably another sim game and probably a rehab outing or two. We'll see what the progression is, but it will be his first sim game since going on the IL on Monday at Petco Park. And when that happens, we will keep you posted on what next is for Michael King. So that's a look at what Michael King is doing. Some of the guys the Cardinals are missing right now. A look at our injury report before Game 3 of this 4-game series. Jake Cronenworth, who is back in the lineup today for the Padres. Cronenworth is playing first base today and batting sixth. Jake joined 97.3 The Fan, the Gwynn and Chris program, yesterday. Wanted to revisit a couple of things that Jake had to say. Obviously, it's been a tough couple of days for the Padres offensively, not so much on Thursday when they scored 7 runs, although they were unable to really get it going in the second half of the game. Certainly yesterday, kind of in some ways, a microcosm of the Padres offense this season. They had a ton of hits. They had 11. They went 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They didn't score a run despite having 11 hits. And as we know, it's been a pretty up and down offense for a while. Here was Jake Cronenworth yesterday here on 97.3 The Fan talking about the inconsistency of the offense.
I think compared to last year, and, I don't like to compare teams because every year is so unique in itself, as we've seen. And that's kind of how baseball is. But no, I think, I think would we like to be in a better place? 100%. But, I think if you asked everybody last year the same question, everybody would want to be in a better place too. You're always trying to get better and, get to that point. But I think we've put ourselves in a good position. I think for the most part, from my point of view, guys are having quality at bats up and down the lineup. We got on 7-2 last night in the second inning, and we fight our way back, and we're a couple walks away, a bloop and a blast away from taking the lead there. It doesn't happen for us, but that goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier about kind of how I've attacked this year, and really tried to stay with the process. And we could look back on yesterday and be like, we failed, but at the same time, it's like, we had a pretty dang good offensive game. We had 12 hits and we scored 7 runs, and what can we do today to win today's game? I think that's kind of been the overall message. We could have 2 hits today and win 1-0. You never know.
That was Jake Cronenworth yesterday here on 97.3 The Fan talking about the Padres offense. And again, he was on the air yesterday, so you heard Jake talking about Thursday's game there. Obviously, Jake Cronenworth's name has been in the rumor mill as of late as far as somebody the Padres could consider trading. We'll see. It's been in a couple of reports. Here was Jake Cronenworth on dealing with trade rumors.
My focus is here. Obviously there's, from what I've been told, there's interest from other teams, and, it is what it is. But, my focus is, here with our club and, trying to help us win a World Series and get to our ultimate goal. whatever I can do to do that.
We went over this the other day, but Jake now is the all-time leader at starts at second base for a Padre. Set that the other day with his 431st career start at second base. So no player in Padre history has made more starts at second base. Here was Jake Cronenworth on achieving that milestone a couple of days ago.
It's pretty crazy. It's one of those things. You're just trying to get into the big leagues and be with the team. And hold on, there's a golf cart going by here. You're trying to break in with the team and get comfortable with the guys. And I had just gotten traded over and didn't really know anybody. To be here now, 5.5, 6 years later it's pretty special. That's for sure.
That was Jake Cronenworth yesterday here on 97.3 The Fan. If you want to hear that full interview, you can catch it on the Gwynn and Chris On-Demand podcast feed available on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcast. You can get more info at 973thefansd.com. You can go hear that full interview with Jake Cronenworth from yesterday here on 97.3 The Fan. We get ready for today's game. First pitch coming up at 4:15 here on the Padres Radio Network. Third game of this 4-game set between the Padres and the Cardinals. How do the Padres get a win today? Let's give you our keys.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number 1, contain the Cards' hot hitters. Let's talk about a couple of guys in this Cardinal lineup today. Wilson Contreras has an extra base hit in 5 straight games. He's also hitting .341 with 16 extra base hits in his last 26 games. Contreras went 2 for 2. He was on 4 times last night. An 1176 OPS in 136 career plate appearances against the Padres. That is the highest by any player with at least 74 plate appearances against them since 2016. So if it seems like Wilson Contreras always hits really well against San Diego, well, because he does. It's true. He's been really good against the Padres. Got to find a way to limit him today and in the rest of this series. Key number 2, or I should say, let me get to one other Cardinal player. Mason Wynn, also a guy to watch in this St. Louis lineup today. Drove in 2 runs yesterday. He's batting .346 with 5 doubles in his last 13 games. All right, on to key number 2. Cash in. The Padres have 24 hits in this series through 2 games, but they've gone just 2 for 20 with runners in scoring position. They left 17 on base in the first 2 games of this series. Padres are batting just .208 with runners in scoring position in their last 61 games. That is the second worst mark in the majors in that span. Hey, bottom line, and I'm not trying to pile on the offensive issues here, they have got to be better. They've got to be a lot better with runners in scoring position. What happened last night in a stretch run, trying to make the playoffs, really can't happen. Key number 2, they got to cash in at a higher rate, not just today, but in the days to come. Key number 3, hey, Fernando, Luis, Manny, keep doing what you're doing. Despite the Padres' offensive issues and a 4-game losing streak and a 3-5, 8-game road trip so far, well, it'll be a 10-game road trip by the end of it. Those 3 guys, and some others too, but those 3 are playing really well at the very top of the lineup. Fernando Tatis Jr. had a pair of doubles yesterday and is now 5 for 9 in this series. Tatis is hitting .333 with 7 extra base hits in his last 16 games, a .976 OPS in those 16 games. Luis Ariz is batting .375 with 3 doubles in an 8-game hit streak. Manny Machado has 3 straight multi-hit games. He is 7 for 13 in that span. So you would like to think if those guys continue to put up those kinds of numbers, it'll even out. Hopefully they can. Keep on doing what you're doing at the top of the lineup. They've been good. Manny, Luis, and Fernando. And that's a look at our keys to today's game. Full slate of games, including a doubleheader in the big leagues today. Let's tell you about the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We have a couple of finals already today in the major leagues. We've got game one of a doubleheader in Kansas City between the Royals and the Guardians. Royals leading 5-3, winning it 5-3 in game one of that doubleheader. Royals walked it off in the bottom half of the 10th inning in that game. Kind of a stunner for Kansas City. It was a 3-run walk-off home run by Jonathan India. Turned it from a 3-2 deficit for Kansas City into a 5-3 win in game one of that doubleheader. Phillies beat up on the Yankees again. Not going well in New York right now. 9-4. The Phillies beat the Yankees for a second straight day at Yankee Stadium. Games going on right now, just a few. Blue Jays and the Tigers in the fourth inning in Detroit. Rays and the Reds in the first inning in Cincinnati. No score in both of those games. In fact, we have a rain delay right now before first pitch in Pittsburgh between the Diamondbacks and the Pirates. Everything else is also coming up later. Rockies and the Orioles at 4:05. Braves and the Rangers in Arlington at 4:05. Cubs and the White Sox at 4:10. In Chicago, that one at Guaranteed Rate Field. I think it's actually just Rate Field these days in Chicago, pardon me. Marlins and the Brewers in Milwaukee at 4:10. A's and the Astros in Houston at 4:10. Nationals and the Twins in Minnesota at 4:10. Dodgers and the Red Sox at Fenway at 4:15. Clayton Kershaw against Garrett Crochet, the pitching matchup in that one. Guardians and the Royals play game two of that doubleheader at 4:15 in Kansas City. Mets and the Giants at 6:05 in San Francisco. A couple of good left-handers going at it there. Robbie Ray against David Peterson. And finally, Mariners and the Angels at 6:38 in Anaheim. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Saturday across the major leagues. When we come back, we'll dive into, I would think, a way the Padres can win today's game. They are very well set up to win today's game for a specific reason. I'll talk about that when we return. We'll also preview today's starting pitching matchup between Randy Vasquez and Matthew Liberatore, a couple of young pitchers going at it for game three of this 4-game series. Padres trying to snap a 4-game losing skid, also trying to avoid what would be their second 5-game losing streak of the season. Again, first pitch coming up at 4:15. We send things out to Jesse and Tony at 4:05. Still a lot to do on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. This is the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch is coming up at 4:15 in St. Louis at Busch Stadium, the third game of this 4-game series between the Padres and the Cardinals. We send things out to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. in under 10 minutes. We'll preview today's starting pitching matchup between Randy Vasquez and Matthew Liberatore in just a moment. Padres come in 55 and 49, Cardinals at 54 and 51. Padres enter today sitting in the National League's final wild card spot, a 1-game lead on the Giants. Padres have lost 4 in a row. They're 3-5 on this road trip to DC, Miami, and St. Louis. Cardinals, meanwhile, 54 and 51, game and a half back of the Padres for that final wild card spot. So, hey, you would assume in that Cardinals clubhouse, there has to be a feeling of, hey, we've won 2, and we could make things very, very interesting if they were able to win this series. We'll see if the Padres can salvage the final 2 games of this series. Well, let's talk about a way they could do that, specifically today, as we tell you what to watch for.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. How does Mike Shildt manage his bullpen if the Padres are to have a lead? Here's why I bring it up. This is a rare time as the Padres enter today's game where the big four, the 4 horsemen, Estrada, Morejon, Adam Suarez, they're well rested. Estrada pitched on Thursday. None of those 4 pitched yesterday. And it does make you wonder if we see something like what we saw in Randy Vasquez's last start on Monday in Miami when the Padres had a 2-1 lead. It was the 5th inning. Randy was at only 68 pitches. And Mike Shildt was very aggressive. Went to Adrian Morejon, if you remember. Morejon got the last 2 outs of the 5th inning, got the 3 outs in the 6th inning, and then it was bing, bang, boom. Estrada, Adam Suarez, 7, 8, 9. Game over. 14 outs recorded by those 4 guys. Padres won the game 2-1. That was the score when Morejon entered the game in the 5th inning. So, do we see that again today? If the Padres can grab an early lead or a lead in the middle portion of this game, and, that's not a given, but do we see that again today where Mike Shildt gets really aggressive with a well-rested 4 horsemen and says, go get him? We're going to see, but that's something to keep an eye on today, the way the Padres go about this on their pitching staff. If they have a lead, if they're in a position to do something very much like what we saw them do Monday during Randy's last outing in Miami. That's what to watch for in today's game. The other potential advantage the Padres have today is this. Look, the Cardinals bullpen last couple of days has been great, but they did have to use their high leverage guys back-to-back days, Thursday and Friday. Jojo Romero has pitched 2 straight days. Phil Maton has pitched 2 straight days. Ryan Helsley, their closer, has pitched 2 straight days. So keep in mind, the Cardinals may be without some of their high leverage guys today. We'll see if the Padres can take advantage of that. Let's preview our starting pitching matchup between Randy Vasquez and Matthew Liberatore.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
26-year-old right-hander Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres today. 2025, 3-4, a 3.73 ERA in 20 starts, 99 innings, 50 strikeouts, and 47 walks. His last start in Miami, 4 innings and a third, 1 earned run given up on 7 hits. The Padres have won each of Randy's last 5 outings. Like we've said, he does a good job keeping him in the game, giving him a chance to win. He's got a 3.81 ERA in that span. He did make 1 start in St. Louis last year. It was a good one. 6 innings, 2 earned runs given up on 6 hits. We'll see if Randy can replicate something like that here today. Left-hander Matthew Liberatore on the mound for the Cardinals, 25 years old. He's 6-7 this season, 4.13 ERA in 18 starts, 100 innings and a third. He struck out 80, walked 22. He's making his first start since July 11th. The Cardinals opted to give him a little extra rest out of the All-Star break to manage his workload. He's already at a career high in innings. His start 15 days ago was also arguably his worst of the year. He gave up 6 runs on 9 hits, including 2 home runs in just 3 innings, and he had been really, really good before that. He had posted a 2.25 ERA in his 4 starts before that last one before the All-Star break. This will be his first career start against the Padres. He made 5 appearances against them, all in relief. 4 of them were last season. Liberatore has been very good in those appearances against the Padres. 4 2/3 scoreless innings in relief against San Diego in his career. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup today. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres and left-hander Matthew Liberatore on the mound for St. Louis. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. Well, the Padres, it has not gone well as of late. They've lost 4 in a row. They've lost the first 2 games of this 4-game series in St. Louis. They are now just 3-5 on this current 10-game road trip. So the question is, can they find a way to get a win here today? Can they cash in when they have opportunities with runners in scoring position? We're going to find out. You sure hope they can and snap a 4-game losing skid, get things back on track in St. Louis today. When we come back, we send things out to Busch Stadium in the Lou. It's Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.
It's baseball season, and nonprofit San Diego County Bar Association